You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey there, it's Dr. J. It's a wonderful Monday. Evan, how we doing today, brother?
Doing great, man. Summer's here and I'm hoping it doesn't fly by. How you doing?
Excellent, man. I got a new set of water skis and I was out on Lake Austin ripping it up. I had one run. Anyone who does water skiing knows this. I had one run that probably lasted over 10 minutes. And my legs are feeling like literally just jello right now. And I'm like, I'm not just standing. I'm like making slalom turns, like, giant slalom turns, like doing over the wake and doing jumps, doing some tricks. So I posted some of that. I got it on my iPhone right now. I'm recording on Facebook here on the other phone. So I'll post that up to my Facebook page and Instagram later on today so people can see me ripping it up. And
yeah. People want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see when you don't have the polo shirt on. What are you up to? They want to stalk you. Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. So I'm going to post that up there. And also, it's great neurological exercise, right? When you're doing things where you got to stabilize in a three-dimensional setting, right? You got to worry about going forwards, backwards, left, right. So you got to really activate all of those proprioceptives and mechanoreceptors and all of those stabilizing muscles that typically don't get used if you're doing, just conventional lifting, especially machine-based lifting, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
cool,
are your abs
look at you with
just your abs or just your legs?
I mean, when you first start, like your abs will be sore because you got to stabilize, right? Because you got this rope right here, and this rope's pulling you. The boat's pulling the rope, right? So if not, you're bending over, right? Because the rope's pulling you. So you got to keep this whole entire posterior chain stabilized, and then you need your core in tight because you got to keep everything upright. Right. So, because sometimes if you hit a bump, you may want to fall backwards. So you got to keep that core rock solid because you can go backwards or forwards. Right. So you got to keep that whole entire thoracolumbar chain activated. So it's pretty cool.
Sweet. Well, good job. Glad you didn't hurt yourself. Let's get into this podcast. We did a last podcast on amino acids. We talked about energy and we talked about mood.
Oh, so by the way, I wanted to ask you, are you okay?
Am I good?
Yeah. Are you okay?
Is this like a trick question? What do you mean?
Well, I see you got attacked by the sleeve monster. So I wanted to know. It seemed like you survived the attack, but the sleeve monster made away with two of your sleeves. So I just wanted to question you about that. How you doing?
I had to rock the tank top today, man.
You're rocking the tank top, man.
I'm feeling good. Well, so just for listeners, I'll make this quick, but I had an abdominal wall injury about 2 years ago. I tore my abdominal wall. I thought it was a hernia and got the ultrasound. They said it's not a hernia, but a tore abdominal wall. Be very careful because if you continue to lift heavy weights, you're going to get a hernia. Yeah. And I chatted with you and I was like, dude, this scar tissue is not healing. And you said, well, go get a myofascial release therapist. And that's what I did. And now for the first time in a couple of years, I was able to lift without pain. So thank the Lord and thanks so much for the recommendation. Anybody listening, if you've got issues with not being able to lift or you're having pain in weird areas, myofascial release is magic.
Yeah, and even better than myofascial release is active release technique. Active release takes it one step further. Active release involves myofascial release, but then it adds in the active range of motion by the patient. So myofascial release is like they're kind of moving you in the direction. So they're finding that adhesion, and they're like, let's say it's my bicep, right? So this is like, so eccentric contraction means like elongating, concentric means shortening, right? So this is the concentric. Let's say I have an adhesion right here in my bicep, right? I find the adhesion. I shorten the muscle, right? It's concentric, and now I'm lengthening it as I extend out, right? So myofascial is like the person's doing it for you. That's step 4. And then step 5 is then like you're actually doing it for you at the end. So it kind of gives you an idea. One's passive, one's active, and it's always good to go from passive into active because obviously if you're in pain, it may be harder for you to do that yourself.
Makes sense. And also my low right back, I had issues there where I hurt my back working at UPS in college. And the therapist, she goes, your issue's not on the right side. Although the pain's manifesting on the right side, the issue was on the low left side of my back that was tightening the right side. So she fixed that area too. So I'm a huge proponent.
Yeah, I mean, when I would do like a lot of applied kinesiology chiropractic work, we'd like, put people like at a 45-degree angle, like kind of like curled up like they're doing a sit-up. And then we'd hold them like this and we apply pressure, hold them like this, apply pressure. And we could find out like, was it an internal oblique, external oblique, just a rectus abdominis, like weakness. And then from there, like a lot of times I was using the ARP wave. So I would use like electricity to go through there. But then you could also take one of those stones, these Gaussian stones, I think they're called. Let me pull it out. These are pretty cool. Yeah, these little stones, they're called Gaussian stones. And then you can take it and then you can like, let's say I had adhesion on my bicep. I could like take a little bit of like coconut oil and then I could just work out the adhesion like this, almost kind of like a Graston technique.
Yep.
And then you could work on it like that. But it's not going to be as functional as like the myofascial because the myofascial takes it and really works it within the contractile planes of the muscle tissue and the muscle fibers. That's the big difference.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you need a test dummy to do some more hands-on videos. I think people would really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do a lot more of that work earlier in my career, and then I'm just booked out 3 months of functional medicine.
Right.
And, I just enjoy that just more because there's so many different issues I can address
Agreed.
with functional medicine. And I see so many pain issues that normally would be like a chiropractic kind of issue, but we fix with diet and lifestyle alone. But I would always suggest getting a holistic chiropractor on board to work on this. Things just heal so much better and the nervous system functions a lot better. And yeah, Graston's very similar to what I'm saying. Graston's great. Again, I like techniques that also involve the range of motion too.
Cool. You want to chat about amino acids?
Yeah, I got a patient here coming up soon, so we'll keep this podcast a little bit shorter. So we talked about amino acids last week, and we talked about them in regards to mood and energy. Today, we're going to focus on anxiety and sleep. And again, we've done podcasts on these topics before, but, it's a new date. It's 2017 here in July. New things come our way. New clinical experience gets plugged into that open loop that we have of new information coming in. So it's always good hitting new things. So off the bat, anxiety can be caused by a couple things. All right. Anxiety, obviously, people know what anxiety is. It's pretty self-explanatory. That uneasiness, those feelings that come in, the butterfly, little tingly spider sensations that come in, and it can be subtle, right? Or it can be really extreme where it gets to a panic attack level. And a lot of times things that can drive that can be over adrenaline or increased adrenaline. It can be caused by increasing cortisol. And then things that can create increase in adrenaline and increase in cortisol are going to be things that stimulate the sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. So any stressor that could have an effect on that, we really want to look at addressing. So blood sugar is a big thing. People skipping meals tends to drive a lot of anxiety issues. People not eating a balanced meal with enough fat and protein can create issues because you have lack of blood sugar stability. And when blood sugar goes up and down, you get surges of insulin and you get surges of adrenaline and cortisol on the dropping end. And all that can create mood issues and adrenaline issues. And then also just looking at the cortisol rhythm. A lot of people, they may really drop out in the latter half of the day with their cortisol, which may create more stress on the body to get the blood sugar up, and which can create issues there too. So that's just kind of my little opening there.
Yeah, I had a client a few weeks ago. He's relatively new, so he's not a super large amount of fat eater yet. He's still
Absolutely.
kind of stuck on carbohydrates, and he was having panic attacks. I said, well, what'd you eat for breakfast? And he said, oh, it was a pretty good breakfast. What does that mean? It was a banana and gluten-free cereal. And I'm like, good Lord, that's sugar and carbohydrate. And so for us, we really want people, if you're doing like an intermittent fasting protocol and you're pushing your breakfast back, fine if you can handle it. But if you've got adrenal stress, you've got anxiety problems, intermittent fasting might not be a good fit for you. You may need to make your breakfast a bit sooner. You may need to do within 30 minutes of waking up, you may need to eat something, because if you ate dinner last night at 6 p.m., and it's now 6 or 7 a.m. and it's 12 hours since you've eaten and you've got anxiety, that blood sugar could be crashing and you've got to eat. So whether it's coconut, just coconut meat, it might not have to be coconut oil. I've made some coconut chips, which are pretty cool. Just get some shredded coconut flakes and you can toast them a little bit if you want. Those are great if you want to do a smoothie. I like smoothies over juices. Juices, typically, they're going to have too much sugar if it's a store-bought juice. So smoothies, you're going to have the whole fruit in there, and you could add the coconut flakes or your half avocado or some other type of fat source. If you just don't like to cook in the morning or you just don't have enough of an appetite, I would push someone into eating a smoothie over skipping a meal completely. And then GABA too is another thing that people forget about. I call it kind of the forgotten neurotransmitter. When you're stressed, and like Justin's talking about with cortisol issues, you're going to deplete GABA, which is kind of the brakes of the brain. And so your conventional doctors are going to prescribe lorazepam or Xanax or some other sort of benzodiazepine.
Exactly. Some kind of benzo to help with that, for sure.
Yeah, and it's crap, and it's not addressing the root cause. And the issue with pharmaceuticals is it downregulates your own production. Just like melatonin, supplemental melatonin could be helpful, but you do turn down your brain's production. So if you're taking GABAergic drugs, you're turning down GABA, and that's why people have worse anxiety and panic attacks trying to come off of Xanax and other benzos. And so for us, we may push somebody towards like an L-theanine, or you've got lemon balm, or you've got chamomile extract, you've got valerian, you've got passion flower. There's a lot of other cool things you can use to support anxiety without damaging yourself.
100%. Now, low-hanging fruit, of course, diet, making sure the diet's dialed in. Reducing inflammation is going to be huge, right? Anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense, low-toxin diet. We like talking about things regarding food in a template fashion, because template allows us to be macronutrient agnostic. We're not biased over that. If someone's having more insulin resistance and does better kind of intermittent fasting, cyclical ketogenic, then we go lower. People are more active and they need a little bit more carbs, you may go a little bit higher. So we're kind of agnostic when it comes to macronutrients. Macros are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. But of course, everything that we want is got to needs to be nutrient dense. So on the micronutrient side, we can still have very nutrient dense foods on the micronutrient side, but still be macronutrient agnostic, because all the foods on our palette, if you will, like if we're an artist painting something and we have all these colors to paint from, choose from, same thing with the diet. We have all kinds of foods on our palate that may be higher carb, lower carb, higher fat, lower fat, but the one common thread, the three common threads, I should say, is nutrient dense, high amounts of nutrition per ounce of food, anti-inflammatory, calming down inflammation, and also going to be low in toxins, Roundup, pesticides, chemicals, and even things like lectins and phytates and oxalates and more irritating compounds in the gut too.
Perfect. One other amino acid we could mention would be L-glutamine. Even though it's not necessarily an anti-anxiety amino acid, glutamine can be great for stabilizing blood sugar. So I tell women that, especially women, because they're a little bit more susceptible, keep the glutamine in your purse. If you've got a sugar craving, that blood sugar's crashing, you pop open the glutamine, pour it on your tongue, and within 5 minutes, you could feel a bit better. If you're having like a blood sugar crisis and you don't have anything good, or you just don't want to eat something garbage, L-glutamine could be another good one. So glutamine, theanine, we talked about lemon balm, which isn't an amino acid, but it supports GABA.
Same thing. Yep, lemon balm. Yep. Absolutely. I got my liposomal GABA here as well. Huge fan of GABA. Some people say that the molecule is a little bit too big to cross the blood-brain barrier. That's why I use a liposomal form. I'll take a couple of hits here right now on show.
Nice. How quick does that hit you?
Oh, no. I mean... It depends, because I'm not really an anxious person anyway. So for me, I don't notice a huge hit. But if I am feeling like a little bit more stressed, I do feel like it's kind of helpful and soothing. So GABA is great with that. Also, just really simple. And some of these things, we got to have our hierarchy of treatment in line, right? If you're doing these things, but your diet sucks, your blood sugar is everywhere, your sleep stinks. And again, it's kind of contradictory, but sleep will help anxiety the next day, right? Because you're going to recharge and recycle a lot of your neurotransmitters when you sleep. So having good sleep's definitely top priority. Now, if part of your issue is you're not getting good sleep, then we can talk about that later on in the show. But GABA is great. Also, a little bit of lavender essential oil is phenomenal. You do it right on your wrist. You can do it right on like kind of the lymph nodes here in the jaw or back of the neck here in the occipital lymph nodes. That's great. Or just even go like this on your hands and then then you get right into the respiratory system and it starts activating right away. So a little bit of lavender can be very, very helpful. And of course, magnesium as well. I mean, these are kind of like low-hanging fruits, right? Magnesium, lavender, lemon balm, right? Our GABA, especially liposomal GABA, right? You mentioned Melissa. You mentioned, I think you even mentioned valerian root. I know you mentioned L-theanine. These are all awesome. We may even stack on there some ashwagandha. I use my Adrenal Revive. It's got a combo of them in there, but I also have a support that called Ashwagandha Supreme that has just ashwagandha. So I use that a lot too. Ashwagandha is pretty cool. It means Sanskrit. It's to impart the strength of the horse. So a pretty cool little translation there.
You want to know something else cool about ashwagandha?
What?
So the Withania somnifera, the Latin, I was looking up the translation. It means to induce sleep.
To induce sleep, huh? Yeah. Withania, and then Withania somnifera is the active name. Yeah, cool. Yeah, also known as Indian ginseng as well.
I love it. I think that's a great recommendation. And then reishi mushroom too. That's a cool immune stress support that you can take and you can stack on the ashwagandha too. And then motherwort. I really like motherwort. I've mainly tried it in tincture. I've not tried it in herbal, like a capsule, but I'm sure motherwort capsules do exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just simple things we talked about it last time, like B vitamins, like making sure B12 and B6 are going to be present. That's going to be really important. B6 is really important with neurotransmitter synthesis and communications. We don't have enough B6 or P5P, pyridoxal 5-phosphate. There's pyridoxal hydrochloride, but pyridoxal 5-phosphate is going to be an activated B6 vitamin. B12 is going to be really important, especially vegan vegetarians. There may be some nutrient density issues with some of these things. Again, people don't understand that. You just look at liver compared to kale, for instance. People think kale is a superfood in the veggie community, which I love it. I think it's great and it should be a part of everyone's diet, but doesn't hold a candle to liver. So again, some of these animal products are incredibly bioavailable and nutrient dense, and I like that a lot. We talked about magnesium. That's phenomenal. Amino acids, we talked about it last week. We talked about it. 5-HTP, right, is great for serotonin. Serotonin can be very, very common. So, I mean, I take the Brain Replete, which got a little 5-HTP in it as well. Sometimes we'll take the 5-HTP by themselves, though, because we get a little bit of individual dosing that way, and it's got some B6 in it. So I like that because of the extra serotonin. Serotonin can be calming and relaxing. A lot of doctors think you don't need to do GABA. If you have the serotonin and dopamine kind of dialed in, GABA is kind of a subsidiary of that. So if you take care of the upstream neurotransmitters, the downstream neurotransmitters kind of take care of themselves.
Interesting thought. I still think the GABA is worth having on board. I notice significant difference when I use it. It's helpful. I mean, people that have, panic attack issues or anxiety issues, I give them a bottle like this and they're doing 2-3 drops every couple of hours all day long. And, we're getting to the root cause, right? We're getting the blood sugar under control. We're also supporting the adrenal glands because the adrenal glands help that blood sugar stay unstable. So if you're that person that if you skip a meal, you get anxious or you get really irritable, you got a blood sugar issue there, and your adrenals probably need more help or more support to get that back on track. Yeah, so let me just say it in another way. If you're getting hangry or you are freaking out because I'm going to kill somebody if I don't eat, that's a sign your blood sugar's off. Those people could have blood sugar issues along with anxiety issues.
And even people that do it right. Like if you do it right, it's better because, of course, if you do more refined sugar and not enough of those good macros like the fats and proteins, your blood sugar is going to drop really fast because, well, just go camping, right? Go start a fire. Try starting a fire with twigs and paper. The fire is going to be up and out, up and out, up and out. That's your blood sugar, right? Twigs and paper equal refined sugar, excess carbohydrate. Logs in the fire, logs and kindling, that equal protein and fat. So kind of keep that analogy is every time you eat, you're really trying to stoke that metabolic fire. And again, of course, we know maybe some gasoline, maybe a little paper may help that fire catch faster. That's kind of where the macros kind of, the customization's involved. So you got to figure out what works best for you. But for default, right, you want a long lasting fire, you actually have to show up with some wood. Right?
Agreed. Johnny said he tried float tanks.
Need some wood to start a fire, right? Makes sense. Protein, fat.
Sorry to interrupt you. Johnny, he had left a comment for us. He said he tried float tanks last week, 5 days in a row, and it was amazing for mood and stress. Yeah, I mean, the lifestyle stuff's great too. We always implement that. Amino acids on top of float tanks, that's awesome too. James, he had a question. Any amino acid for instant relief of SIBO and digestive issues, mostly bloating and gas? What's your take, Justin, about aminos and digestion?
Well, B6 and 5-HTP is very helpful for that migrating motor complex communication. Also, some ginger can be very helpful. But again, let's face it, you actually have to knock out some of that bacteria, right? If SIBO is what's driving that issue, maybe it's a Citrobacter or a Proteus overgrowth, or maybe it's Klebsiella, right? My old joke in microbiology class, right, when we'd nerd out, if you're a bacteria, where's the place to party, right? You go to Klebsiella. I know, it's bad. It's really bad. But that's the joke. So anyway, Klebsiella, any of those critters could be at bay there. So you got to knock out the critters, and you may even want to starve them out on the flip side with a low FODMAP kind of paleo template to start. That can be a good template. So you starve them on one side, right? You support the migrating motor complex here. Maybe you add in some hydrochloric acid and enzymes to work on that, and then you kill them over here, and then I'll slide to the left, and then you add maybe some more probiotics in afterwards. That's kind of like our sequence for dealing with that. But of course, supporting the adrenals in the process is helpful, because if there's inflammation in the gut, inflammation does what? It's going to get the sympathetic nervous system going. What does the sympathetic nervous system do to digestion? Decreases digestion. It decreases motility. It decreases hydrochloric acid and enzyme secretion too. Well said.
So James, get to the root. We like having a natural treasure chest of things you can use instead of, say, Pepto-Bismol, but you still got to work back towards that root cause. So fix those gut issues, and you won't need anything for temporary relief. You'll just feel amazing permanently.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about a lot of things that are great to use, but it needs to all be in the context of, okay, but also get to the root cause, but also do this too. Just so we're clear.
Well, cool. Awesome. I think this was a pretty rapid fire podcast. Anything else you wanted to mention on this topic?
Yeah, ashwagandha is going to be great. Of course, if you're more on the anxious side, be very careful with coffee. Be very careful of alcohol, because that could obviously get more of the adrenaline and the catecholamines revved up. So that component is really important. Also, meditation's nice. I mean, I have my little M-Wave app here. I may go do this here in between patients. Yeah. Plug this into my iPhone, plug it on my ear, and I try to get into a state of coherence where the heart and brain are in this this connective state, and you can see that based on heart rate variability. So you can do that. That's another excellent technique as well. A couple other herbs I think we didn't quite mention, but chamomile is great. Valerian's great. Tulsi, or I think it's octanoctum. Tulsi's great. Holy basil, it's the same thing, right? They're all the same thing.
Yep.
Same name. Those are all phenomenal. Getting some exercise in is huge to help ease stress and to decrease anxiety. You talked about it. I forget what the Oriental name of it is, but it's you go out the forest bathing. It's a Japanese word for it.
Yeah, Shinrin Yoku. Yeah.
Shinrin Yoku. Wow, man. And I thought I had it tough with my last name being Marchegiani. Shinrin Yoku. Okay, cool. I like that.
Samuel left us a comment.
What's that?
Samuel left us a comment before we get off here. He said that he's halfway through his H. pylori protocol, and his anxiety has diminished tremendously. Really happy to hear that, Samuel. We see that all the time with gut infections. For me, I had 2 parasites. I remember calling Justin up one night. I'm like, yo, I feel like my heart's beating out of my chest, man. What do I do? And I had those infections at that time. So I had some supplements to help me, but my gut issues were definitely driving my anxiety. And I'm not an anxious person by nature, so it was bizarre. But once I've treated the infections and I'm infection free now, I'm back to being pretty chilled out again. So yeah, that's a true testament what he's talking about. Gut infections definitely do drive anxiety. Your doctor's not going to figure that out though. They're just going to give you anti-anxiety meds. They're not going to say, hey, you might have something going on in the gut. They've just got no clue.
100%. Let's talk about that mechanism, right? That Samuel brought up. So that's the mechanism is through lipopolysaccharide reduction, right? Lipopolysaccharides, another antonym or synonym for endotoxin, right? Endotoxins, the outer second layer of these gram-negative bacteria. And these endotoxins, one, they can drive leaky gut. But two, when they get into your bloodstream, they can make their way to the brain and create leaky brain. But when they get into the brain, they can create a lot of mood issues and anxiety issues. And there's some studies where they talk about, they look at what are, lipopolysaccharide antibodies, and they see people that have these antibodies have like more anxiety and mood issues. And then when they would reduce the bacterial load by knocking out the bacteria, lipopolysaccharide levels would drop, and also their anxiety and mood would improve too. So that's pretty cool. That's another excellent mechanism there through leaky gut, through the gut, through infections, and how that can also drive mood issues. And that has to be looked at, right? You have to actually address the infection to get relief in that area.
Wow. If I ever became a psychiatrist, I mean, my first place to go would be the gut.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Julia Ross has talked about it many times. She's a MFT, so a marriage and family therapist. And she's talked multiple times where she had clients in therapy that were just talking about their issues and for decades, right? Just talking about their issues, talking about their problems, started fixing their diet, fixing their neurotransmitters. And then they show up the next week or next month and they're just like, yep, doesn't really bother me anymore. It's not really an issue, right? It's just kind of like they can process their emotions much better. So things come up, they can process it and move on.
Yeah, that's the thing I've noticed about adults is they act more like children when they've got blood sugar or amino acid issues. If you're not eating protein, for example, this isn't to throw too much shade at vegetarian vegans, but I see them all the time. They've had some temper issues. I've talked with some vegans that can fly off the handle, and they've just got no amino acids to help regulate their mood. So the mechanism there, if you don't have amino acids, the raw building blocks for your neurotransmitters, you don't have GABA, you've got no serotonin, so you have no emotional flexibility. You've got low dopamine, so you've got a lack of focus, a lack of drive, concentration. You're easily bored. You've got attention deficit. I mean, all these neurotransmitter deficiencies caused from a lack of quality animal proteins in the diet, it can really, really add up.
Yeah, check this out. Here's a really cool study. And I've seen this quite frequently where they've supplemented like fish oils and like fats in jails and actual criminal environments. And they found that like violence in the prisons like significantly dropped. They've done studies where they look at violence, and a lot of violence tends to happen in low blood sugar environments. How about that? I mean, I'll read this one study here for you.
Yeah.
Let me show you this. Let me get to the conclusion. See if I can summarize it pretty fast. We talked about aggression and violence often start when self-control stops, of course, right? Now, what's self-control? Self-control is going to be caused by the neofrontal cortex. You have about 0.25 milliseconds to take an impulse that you initially, you think of like, oh, I want to punch the wall because I'm so mad. But then frontal cortex, right? 25 milliseconds, you override it because you're like, ooh, broken hand, not good, right? I got to type the next day. I got to do work with it. Not a smart idea. So then you punch a pillow instead, or you just, go for a run or something, right? So you get this frontal brain that kind of overrides a lot of that thinking. The problem is, let me just kind of hit a little bit more. For society to function peacefully, people must control their aggressive impulses. Self-control requires a lot of brain food in the form of glucose. Thus, people who have difficulty metabolizing glucose, breaking it down into a useful form and keeping it at constant levels, I'm going to highlight that, breaking it down in a useful form and keeping it at constant levels are at a greater risk for aggressive and violent behavior. The inability to metabolize glucose is not only a risk factor for health problems in those afflicted with the disorder, but is also a risk factor for aggression and violence in all members of society. The healthy metabolism of glucose may contribute to a more peaceful society by providing individuals with a higher level of self-control energy. This is profound. Now, I'm going to go highlight a couple things here. There's a couple misnomers. People are going to think here, well, that just means I have to eat sugar constantly throughout the whole day. You got to be careful because by doing too much sugar, you can create reactive hypoglycemic spikes and drops. So it's about having the right amount of carbohydrate, and not all carbohydrates equal. So more non-starchy vegetable-based carbohydrates with the right amount of low glycemic fruit and or starchy carbs according to what your needs is, and then you can kind of dose in some of the higher glycemic fruit as well. But this is profound because stable blood sugar helps produce a better activation of the neocortex, and when the blood sugar drops, guess what part of the brain you're using?
Yeah, the reptilian.
The reptilian hindbrain. So that's fight or flight, right? And a lot of spousal issues happen, yelling and fights and issues happen with friends and family, typically in and around food and blood sugar being low. So very important. I would say one big tip is have your dinner and then talk about issues of stress after the fact. Get your food in there, get your digestion going, get your blood sugar stabilized, and then you can activate that neofrontal cortex so much better.
Yep. Well said, man. And I've seen the same thing here in the west end of Louisville. Pretty low income, definitely ghetto part of the town. It's a food desert. There's articles written about it all the time in the local newspapers here. There's no high quality food available. It's all fast food and junk food. Therefore, tons of blood sugar issues. There's the most crime in the city. I mean, I think probably have an overlapping layer of food quality and availability and then crime. And I guarantee where we see higher quality food, we're going to see less crime because people are eating and they're not losing their mind.
Yeah, 100%. And, we subsidize junk food in our country to the tune of $20 billion a year. So
that's ridiculous.
Soy and corn and all this crap, it's artificially cheap. So, when you look at the dollar menu, right, the reason why it's so cheap is because it's subsidized a ton. Now, again, we just combat that. It's really simple, right? I don't look for the government to do anything for me. I just vote with my wallet. And I say, okay, great. Let's try to, invest in foods that are going to make us healthier. Now, again, as a doctoral student, I was literally living on nothing financially. I think I had just enough to pay my housing. And then maybe I think at the end of the month, I had this is total. I think I had $500 after I paid for my housing. So I'm in the Bay Area, right? So that includes groceries, car expenses, everything. I had $500 at the end of the month, for the whole entire month to spend on food, car, everything. So I had to be very judicious and I budgeted everything out. And I would buy a lot of my meat in bulk from Whole Foods. I would do a lot of family pack stuff. I would do if I needed to save money, I'd do organic vegetables frozen. That would help a ton. And then just lots of good fats, right? Lots of good coconut oils. I'd buy it in bulk, a gallon tub of it at a time, lots of good grass-fed butter. Just I would try to make every dollar I spent just get the highest amount of nutrient density for me.
Yeah, avocados, you can get those for $1 on sale. Buy a big bag of avocados. You could get, I think my wife today, I think she bought 5 avocados for $4 or something like that, or 4 avocados for $5. So
exactly. And Costco is getting pretty good too. And a lot of their food options. I mean, you can get a thing of berries for $4. It's insane. You can't even get it down fast enough. Yeah. So a lot of good options for you. Again, I lived it when basically, in California, I was, when you're a doctoral student, I was at the poverty level, right?
Right.
I was at the poverty level for where I lived in, the Bay Area in California, and I was able to do it. It was just a matter of priority and I didn't have a smartphone back then either. I said, you know what? I'd rather just take that money and put it towards food. And then I got one after I graduated, right? So It's just about priorities, and we're just trying to put this information, this education out there, reprioritize your stuff, get healthier. When you're healthier, you can do more at your job, you can be better, and then you can climb up that economic ladder and continue to improve yourself.
Yep, well said. I know we got to wrap this up. We both got calls to get to. Let's hit this quick last comment here by Dennis. Any idea why D-phenylalanine did not work for me, as Julia Ross reports from her patients? I'll first hit on this. I would say because there's an underlying issue that you've not addressed, Dennis. Amino acids are not a replacement for getting to the root cause. Amino acids are great to get you from point A to point B, but you still got to dig deeper. So there's probably something going on, whether it's H. pylori, parasites, bacterial overgrowth, something in the gut that's throwing off your brain chemistry that you just can't throw a pill at.
Absolutely. And again, I'm thinking D-phenylalanine. I'm thinking this may be a pain issue, right? D-phenylalanine helps improve beta endorphin. Beta endorphin takes 19 amino acids to make. Go back to the gut. But if there's pain issues, go see a really good functional chiropractor that will look at things holistically. And then also, if there's structural disc issues or ligament issues, high dose collagen, get the gut working better, make sure there's enough protein in your diet so you have structural material to heal.
Yep. Cool. I'm gonna write down our links, which I think YouTube doesn't allow me. Nope, they don't allow me to put web addresses in the comment box. But if you want to reach out to Justin, schedule a consult, just go to justinhealth.com. If you want to check out my site, you can go to evanbrand.com. Look us up. We have over 200 plus episodes of other topics like this. So if we didn't answer your question today, I'm sure we've answered it somewhere, someplace, sometime. So reach out. Happy to help you all.
I'm putting it in right now, and I'll put the reference for today's article in there too. Perfect. So I just put them in there now. Awesome, Ev. I'm going to jump on to a patient. I know you as well. You have an awesome day, brother.
Good chatting with you, man. See ya.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.